Good morning, everyone. You are watching Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin as we continue our series of interviews with our town councilors, and I welcome our new Precinct 11 Town Councilor, Phil Wallace. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Town Council. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided you wanted to join the Town Council.
Well, I'm 58 years old, married to my wife Leslie. We have one son. He's a 23-year-old autistic child that lives with us at our home in West Barnstable on Pine Street. We have a small horse farm there. We have 7.5 acres, 3.5 acres of which is dedicated to fishing in our pond.
Very nice. And
a half-acre paddock for our 2 horses, which are now retired and are just nothing more than really expensive lawn ornaments.
Pets.
Yes, they're pets. And we have 4 rescue dogs now, and we also have 2 houses on the property, one of which we rent and the other we live in.
Wonderful. So it sounds like a real menagerie over there. Certainly nice to have those. What kind of dogs are they, if I may ask?
Yeah, well, I have 1 beagle, 2 Boston Terriers, and a Chug, which is a Chihuahua Pug cross. Yeah, it looks like this little dog. It looks sort of pig-like with a Chihuahua head.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely we'll have to share some photos of that dog for sure. So talk to me a little bit about why you decided to run for town council, and what made you decide that you wanted to join the group.
Well, I believe that I could best serve the people in the 11th precinct if I was in that position. There's a lot of things that were specific to West Barnstable that we didn't appreciate the direction in which they were going. So we decided, and I say we, there's several people that we looked at to run for this position. And at the end of the day, it turned out it was my turn. So I felt a great honor to be asked to run for this seat in the town council, and I took it. And I had the support of many, many people. I had 25 volunteers. On any given morning, I had 10 to 15 people standing out with signs for me. They were very generous financially to get me going, and I feel a lot of responsibility to these people and to the village I live in, too. I've been a resident there for 26 years now, and I know most of the people in the village, and most of them know me. So I think if you look back on the election itself, of all the 13 precincts, we had the highest turnout. We were fortunate enough and thankful that we had the highest vote total of any candidate.
That's great.
And so with that kind of support from the community, we really feel a strong message to move forward with the things we had talked about.
Well, it's so important for the person who represents each village or each precinct to have that knowledge and that responsibility for the area. Our town is so diverse and so unique, and Hyannis is certainly not like West Barnstable, is not like Katuitt, is not like Osterville. So we have all of these different and unique needs. And so for you, as you say, you've been a resident of that village for 26 years. It's a lot of time invested.
Yes, and Precinct 11, area-wise, is the largest precinct, and for me to knock on the doors and meet all the people, I couldn't walk from door to door, say like Precinct 5 or
Right.
Precinct 6. I had to drive, and some of the driveways were 200 or 300 yards long. I wore out 3 pair of shoes. My knuckles were raw. It was an experience I'll never forget.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the placement of Precinct 11? Where in Barnstable is it? Obviously, we've been talking about West Barnstable. Is it strictly West Barnstable, or does it encompass some other villages as well?
A small portion of Marston's Mills along Race Lane, and a small portion of Centerville, which runs down to Captain Crosby near Old Stage and Oak Street.
Sure.
Along in there. But the lion's share of it is West Barnstable, and I share that village with Ann Kennedy in Precinct 1.
Exactly, and she's on the Barnstable Village, Comaquid side. And so Precinct 11, where does it begin and where does it end?
Well, we start on the east side. We really start right about at John Mackey Road on the north side of 6A until you come down to 132. So the school is actually in Precinct 1, and we wrap around it. We go all the way along 6A to East Sandwich, down to Race Lane to East Sandwich, and right down to the Cape Cod Airfield is in the precinct.
Great. So talk to me a little bit about the issues that are affecting Precinct 11 residents in the area. Certainly a lot of things to talk about, both good and sometimes a little controversial as well.
Right. Of course, the shooting range is probably the most widely talked about situation in this precinct, and justifiably so. We saw that the Conservation Commission was able to reach an agreement as to how they wanted to move forward and maintain the operating control of the shooting range. I've had a lot of ideas about what we should be doing with that, and I think maybe if it does become municipal land, we would be able to enact some of those what I call common sense solutions. We do have people on Capes Trail in West Barnstable that are just like maybe 800 feet away. I mean, relatively close, and I've been there, and when they were building the berm, I could hear the backup beeper from the track link excavator like it was right across the street, which it is. And so I think we should do what we can do to mitigate the sound, create a situation for the shooters to bring about the best experience for them. I'd like to enclose the firing line, add sound absorbing material inside of it, make the targets movable so they can remain in there, inside the enclosed firing line, and I think it'll be a better experience for everyone.
Indeed, indeed. So certainly, you know, you're not kidding when you say it's been watched by many people. I don't think I've ever seen the hearing room as full as it was over the summer when they were having those hearings at the Conservation Commission. So lots of people. Talk to me about the 1717 Meeting House. So what's going on with this?
Well, as you probably know, it hasn't had anything but a tarp roof for the last couple of years, actually, and the CPC funds have been allocated $275,000 to replace the roof. There's a problem with the bell, and it's a Paul Revere forged bell, and it sits in a yoke, and the yoke is deteriorated over the years. This church is going to be 300 years old in 2017, so it's a pretty old structure. Arguably maybe the most historically significant structure in the town of Barnstable. So they have that problem, and there's no water in the building, so they don't have a sprinkler system. So they would like to put in some sort of flame retardant system, maybe a halon gas system or something like that. That's what they're looking at doing. So the problem being is that the 1717 Meeting House Foundation can't show ownership of the building. The conventional wisdom is that the deed burned in a fire. Right. And so they have to revert back to the original gift, which was given by William Crocker. And the Crocker family is the first settlers in West Barnstable. And they gave the land to the town in 1658, I believe, to build a meeting house. But unfortunately, the way they did it is they kind of said, well, you got from the big rock to the oak tree to the ditch over here. Well, the rock got moved when the road got wide, the tree died, and the ditch got filled in. So there's nothing. You can't
really measure that way after 300 years, you know.
So now they're measuring off the corners of the building to see if they can get it as close as possible. And they've done that. There's a plot plan now in place. And it appears as though we'll be taking a vote on the next town council meeting so that we'll release the deed to the 1717 Meeting House Foundation. They'll be able to get the funds released, the roof put on the building, and everybody will live happily ever after.
Indeed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Lombard Trust too. This is really kind of interesting as we were talking before we went on the air. You know, the Lombard Trust that I hear most about is the dispersion of funds, the funds that are available to people in need here in town. But of course, where that money comes from is kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, with respect to the Lombard Trust, just in the past 5 years, I believe, Judge Joseph Reardon has been the trustee of this, and he's done quite a remarkable job. He has all the tenants are all current. He has a reasonable, you know, amounts that he's charging them for the lease on the land, as they own the buildings. And he's extended the duration of the leases, which I believe has really caused the lessees to invest into their properties. And it's actually created a facelift to the whole village of West Barnstable, and it's been very nice. And now that he's now spinning off $60,000 to needy families in the town of Barnstable is also wonderful. And as before his leadership in this trust, the trust was making no money. So it is really, he's really done an excellent job, and we're all very pleased that he's in this position.
For sure. It seems, you know, just through this brief conversation that we've had, that really it seems historic preservation, land issues, natural resources, really those are kind of the big issues of concern for Precinct 11 residents. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. We have all sorts of land issues. You know, we are very much still a agricultural community. The largest business in our community is cranberry farming, and so there are issues with that. We have power lines that run through, so there's always issues with the use of pesticides and things like that for to keep the the vegetation down. So we think about these things quite frequently, and my constituents are very concerned with this, and I receive calls from them on a regular basis.
Sure. Well, Phil, thank you so much for coming in and joining us. It was great to get to know you a little bit, and I hope we'll be able to have you on the show again.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Sarah.
so much. Phil Wallace, of course, at Precinct 11, Town Councilor here in the town of Barnstable. For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Colvin.